PIE. It's performance, image, and exposure. My mother always thought that just perform well, Daphne, they'll notice you, they'll promote you, you'll be fine. That's necessary, but it's not sufficient. You have to have the image and a brand that says, I'm collaborative, I'm eager to learn, I want to help you, I'm productive, I'm always early, I'm never late. What does your image say about you? Because when somebody knows that Patty Ann's coming to a meeting, they're either elated or they're pissed off. Which one is it going to be for you? So make sure that you know your image is positive and is productive. And then E is exposure. Who knows you? And who do you know? Who will speak up for you when you're not in the room with them and you're not on Zoom? So if you know Spanish and you know engineering, you might be the one that your sponsor could say, you know what, Daphne speaks Spanish, she knows engineering. Let her go to Brazil for that expat assignment so she can stand up that new manufacturing facility over there in Brazil. But if nobody knows you, you may have all the qualifications in the world, but you will never be promoted or acknowledged because nobody knows you.
So today I have an incredibly powerful guest who happens to be a woman. So you know that's near and dear to my heart.
Thank you, Dr. Patty Ann. It's so good to be here. Good to meet everybody that's listening and watching on this platform. I'm honored to be here. And I have a 30 plus year of experience as a general manager and played various executive roles at some of the world's, what I call the world's most recognizable companies, such as Johnson & Johnson, IBM, General Electric, Hospira, which has been bought by Pfizer. And when I think about the things that I have been able to do, I currently serve on the board of directors of 3 multi-billion-dollar companies. I am the CEO of my own startup. And in that startup, I help curate leaders to be board ready, teach them how to get on boards. I am now an author of the book, Win When They Say You Won't. But prior to my leaving and retiring from corporate America, I was senior vice president, chief information officer, corporate officer at some of those companies that I mentioned. I've had teams and have traveled to every continent in the world except Antarctica. I have been the highest ranking.
I was just there.
You were just at Antarctica?
Yeah, right before COVID. Yeah, definitely get there.
That's the one place I want to go because I've been everywhere else.
I'll talk to you about it offline. Okay. All right. So Daphne, you could go on and on. I mean, clearly you're a powerhouse, but I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
What is it about Daphne, the person? What is it about your soul and your spirit that created such success for anyone, let alone a woman, let alone an African American woman? What is unique to Daphne that is so important for the listeners to know?
Well, what's important or unique for me, everyone's got their uniqueness. Everyone's got their superpower. Everyone's got their gift. So the question is, how do you take your gift that you have and how do you be, number one, proud of it? How do you have faith in it? And then how do you deploy it? And so for me, I was extremely competitive person. And but I was also—
Were you in sports? Were you into sports too?
I wasn't into sports. I was academically competitive.
Okay.
My uncle always said, Daphne, you should be a lawyer, because I always had an argument. And I always tended, I would pull logic, I always had this logic brain. And I would always try to win in an argument. And so I think that was one. And I think being intellectually curious was the other thing. I always want to know why. Well, I can't do that. I was told some things were impossible. You'll never make it in college, Daphne. Why? And so you ask the question, and then if the answer makes sense, then okay. But if it doesn't, then you kind of go further and say, well, why? And so I think what made me unique is that I'm highly competitive, never want to lose, and very curious at the same time. And my mother was this force that said to me, Daphne, you got to live and think above your circumstances and aspire to be more, aspire to be greater, in spite of what people are going to tell you. And so I think my mom is an external strength that I had that helped me to win as well.
Wow, you were really lucky. So you said you were competitive in academics. What did you love about school? What were your favorite subjects?
English, math.
English.
Yeah.
Oh, both sides of the brain, English and math. You don't hear that together often.
And you know what happened? My mom made me read. She said, "Readers lead and leaders read." And so I was reading Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew mysteries when I was a very, very young girl. So I grew up reading all the time. And then she would send me to the alley, and we were very poor. We lived, no air
I'm
conditioning.
sorry, what's the alley? What's
An
the
alley
alley?
is it's like what is like a little road, a fake road behind the house. And
Oh, like I grew up in Brooklyn. We used to have an alleyway. We called it an alleyway. Okay.
an alleyway, exactly. And
Yeah,
so in our
yeah.
alleyway, it wasn't paved, it was rocks. And so
Now, where was this? Where did you grow up?
in Phoenix, Illinois. It's
In Illinois. Okay.
one of the poorest
Okay.
towns in Illinois is Phoenix, 1,500 people. And so the alleyways were paved with rocks. So she would say, "Daphne, go out to the alley and bring me 2 + 4 rocks." If I brought her, Dr. Patty Ann, any more or any less than 6 rocks, then she would send me out to get the switch off the weeping willow tree, and she'd beat my little legs. So it was,
Yeah, you can't do that today. You can't do that today, right?
well, yeah. You're not
Well,
supposed to.
technically you can. Well, no, we're in the Northeast. I knew someone that you know how teenagers can be teenagers, right? And the kid was mouthing off and she slapped her. The kid went upstairs, called the police, and they arrested the mother.
Yeah.
And the mother went to work next day and said, "All right, I know everybody saw it in the paper. Here's what happened." That's it. So anyway, but
they'll call Child Protective Services in a minute on you,
right.
whether you're a teacher or a parent. And so I did that. And so she instilled learning and curiosity and education and growing and always grasping for more. And so I did really, really well in school, so much to the fact that I skipped first grade, thanks to her. And then when I went to college, I got my bachelor's degree in 3 years instead of 4, and I got my MBA in 1 year instead of 2. So I've always been academically strong, but I think it came from being intellectually curious and always wanted to know why.
So curiosity, I believe, curiosity is a tool to increase emotional intelligence, right? People don't think about it. They think about the 4 quadrants, blah, blah, blah. But really, if you're curious about somebody else's position or why somebody feels that way, right? You keep a connection, you're not judging. So how has that curiosity played a role in your business success? Because you're swimming with the sharks. I've done work with GE, IBM, sometimes these aren't the nicest people in the room. So how did curiosity play a role for you and or something else that's not taught in school?
Yeah. What's not taught in school is how to know what game you're playing and what are the rules of the game. And so whether you're playing basketball or football or soccer, I don't say soccer, volleyball, the rules are all different. So you have to understand what is the game that you're playing, who are you playing with, what are their strengths, what do you bring to the table? It's all those things, because it's about you having the mindset of the team. So it's not just your individual contribution for yourself, it's for how do you play the game and help your team win. And then if you're lucky, you get the MVP, right? And you get promoted. But you have to know that there is a game, and then there's a role that you play in that game. And so when you look at swimming with the sharks and you say, well, and I was always a copycatter. I was always like, what does success look like? Success looks like that guy right there. He's always getting money. She's always getting money. She's always getting a name in the paper, whatever success looked like. Then I wanted to understand what they did. Right. So
by the way, I that's what I did too. And I feel for some reason, and this could be a sidebar, I feel that's lost today. Now, when we look at someone that's successful, it's like, woe is me. But they don't want to work hard. They don't want to put in the hours that we put in, but they want what we have. For the listeners, I want everybody to hear, she saw success and mimicked that. She didn't begrudge it. Right. I don't know. If you feel
and that's true. Like as a IBM employee, remember, I was told that I would only be a secretary, and I had to go to secretarial school. So then I joined after I got my college degree and didn't listen to my counselor anymore. I went to IBM and I saw IBMers dressed in blue pinstripe suits,
navy blue,
and burgundy wingtip shoes. So you don't only win by what you dress. But that's a good place to start. What is the
Well,
culture?
it means you belong here. You look like you belong here. People say, oh, how you dress shouldn't matter. I'm like, no, there's a reason why Dress for Success is $1 billion industry. And if, to your point earlier, if you want to play the game, you got to dress the part.
Yeah, the NBA players, for those that don't know, they can't just show up at the stadium any kind of way. They have to dress in a suit or a designer attire as they're just walking into the locker room. And if they don't, they'll either be fined or they won't be able to play. So that's the rule of that game. So everybody's got to know the rules of what does it take to win. And there's something called PIE. They don't teach you this in college or in school, in the business. And I'll be real quick. It's PIE. It's performance, image, and exposure. My mother always thought that just perform well, Daphne, they'll notice you, they'll promote you, you'll be fine. That's necessary, but it's not sufficient. Performance
doesn't work for women at all.
At all. Performance is good, but that's not all you need. You have to have the image and a brand that says, I'm collaborative, I'm eager to learn, I want to help you, I'm productive, I'm always early, I'm never late. What does your image say about you? Because when somebody knows that Patty Ann's coming to a meeting, they're either elated or they're pissed off. Which one is it going to be for you? So make sure that you know your image is positive and is productive. And then E is exposure. Who knows you? And who do you know? Who will speak up for you when you're not in the room with them and you're not on Zoom? So if you know Spanish and you know engineering, you might be the one that your sponsor could say, you know what, Daphne speaks Spanish, she knows engineering. Let her go to Brazil for that expat assignment so she can stand up that new manufacturing facility over there in Brazil. But if nobody knows you, you may have all the qualifications in the world, but you will never be promoted or acknowledged because nobody knows you. So PIE, they never teach you that.
I never heard that acronym PIE before, but basically what you described is executive presence in a nutshell, right?
That's part of it. I mean, having exposure, you have to know people. So
that's the other piece about exposure. And I find this, I really don't like to do the men versus women, but there are differences in the workplace. I'm sure you could tell us a million stories, but I find that women tend to fall for the good girl syndrome. If you do a good job, you will get noticed. And many times we are our own best kept secret. And I tell women that will not get you anywhere. So you mentioned the word sponsorship. So talk a little bit about that and how that played a role in your career.
Yeah. There's a book, by the way, called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. So remember, everybody, be collaborative, but you don't have to be so nice that you're your own best guest speaker. So sponsorship. So there's different kind of stakeholders. In my book, I talk about you should learn everything you can from everyone that you can. And there's different levels of people that you can learn from, role models, sponsors.
Excuse me, Daphne, and I'll interrupt you. And everyone you can learn something from.
Yes.
I'll just add every single person. There's something you can learn from them.
Absolutely. You can learn from people who made a mistake. And what did their lesson? Because I made mistakes. I just did a 2-minute video last night about some of the mistakes that I made so that people don't make those same mistakes that I made. And so I love to share.
So you know what, let's talk about the mistakes, right? Because I talk a lot about failure, right? And actually, I was just watching a video on Pat Summitt and raising my family in Connecticut for 30 some odd years. We hated Pat Summitt in Tennessee. We are the Yukon Huskies, right? And right. But and there's so many great stories between that rivalry. But one of her players said that because there's so much about failure, we learn so much more from failure than we ever do from winning. Kids today aren't taught how to fail. Life's not fair, not I failed. Yeah. But what her player said, and I don't remember who it was that I would have a failure or something would happen. I would go complain or say something, although you didn't complain to Pat Summitt. And all Pat would say is, so what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
What are you going to learn from it? So back to what you're saying about the mistakes that you made, because we all make them.
That's right. There's at least 3 that came to my mind that I did in this video last night. And the first one is never accept a salary that somebody gives you and offers you just because you're grateful.
Never take the first offer. Never.
Understand your value. Understand the market value of you. If you even have to go to other companies and understand what they would offer you, understand that. Because if this company does not value you, that other company over there will. So that's one, don't accept the first offer. Number two.
You know, Daphne, my second book, it's called Money Can Buy You Happiness. Secrets Women Need to Know to Get Paid What They're Worth. And I give the whole strategy on how to, because men never take the first offer. And I've never met a man who thinks he's been overpaid, and there's plenty of them. So, don't get anchored from the get-go, because until recently with the pay transparency, and companies are going to find a way around that, it anchors you forever. And that's one of the reasons why you have to leave a company to get that next jump, which, by the way, is such a broken system, but whatever.
I know, absolutely. And my friend Gail Evans wrote the book, Play Like a Man, Win Like a Woman. So men, they don't take the first offer, and they believe they're overqualified for a job, even though they're only 50% qualified, et cetera.
Exactly.
The other thing is a lot of people take feedback and don't understand what to do with it, or if they should listen to it. And I talk about, I remember that I would get feedback and I would hear all this feedback and I would try to do everything. But there's hearing and then there's listening. So hearing is what your ears do. Listening is when you decide that feedback makes sense for me, that feedback doesn't. So I talk about take in the meat and spit out the bones. There are things that are appropriate for you. There are things that are not appropriate for you, and understand the difference between that. Number three is success. I would take jobs, I would take projects, and didn't really know what success was. How are you going to measure success? And I would just say, okay, well, I'm a star, I'm Daphne Jones, and I'm going to do the best that I can. But you got to know what success looks like and who's going to be measuring you, who's going to be your customer that's going to be caring about the success that you offer. So those are some.
You got to quantify a business. You need numbers.
That's right. That's right. And you got time frame, and you need to know the what, the when, and how. The quality has to also be strong. And you got to know that, okay, are you ready for that opportunity? Can you do it? And if you don't, then now you need to get help. So those are.
Well, I think women turn down things when they're not quite ready yet, but they don't have the confidence to understand. They can learn as they go. You build your plane while you're flying it, as Richard Branson said, because I've never met a man that doesn't take a C-suite position that's never had it before, but they're qualified and they'll figure it out. And you know what? They do. Whereas women use that as, well, I only have 7 out of the 10 expectations. I'm like, are you kidding me? The guy only has 2 and he thinks he's, the best thing since sliced bread. But go back to the, when you said about taking assignments. So what about discriminating between what type assignments you will raise your hand for? Because all assignments are not created equal in terms of elevating your career.
Yeah, there are times when I have skated off what we call the glass cliff. A glass cliff is when you're offered an opportunity that is very career life-threatening, but it's super important, very visible and big. And so if you get that done right and you skate off that cliff into the heavens, you're done good. Otherwise, you can go crashing down and your career could be over. Right. So there are roles, and I've taken roles that I said, you know what, they told me this was impossible at this company. And I said, I've heard the word impossible before. My counselor told me that I would never make it in college. So I would take the opportunity. And so you have to weigh it. You have to understand, do I have the resources? Do I have the time? Do I understand if I don't have the knowledge myself? Do I know who will help me on my team? Because, nobody knows everything, but together with everybody, they know a whole lot. And so having the right resources and people around you is important. So you have to say to yourself, is this project going to enable me to go to the next level? And I believe in having T-shaped leaders. You don't only go up and promote yourself, you can also go sideways and get knowledge and experience that you will then be able to use as you continue to go up. So going sideways is fine, going up is fine. So will this opportunity or assignment allow me to go get breadth, or will it allow me to get more depth? And so if the answer is no to both of those, then you have to decide, well, do I have a choice? If you don't have a choice, then you got to take it. do have a choice, then maybe you wait for the next opportunity. I've been offered promotions to Neutrogena, to J&J Canada, but because my son was a sophomore or junior in high school, there was no way that I could move from New York to California. And so I had to say no. So you have to know how many no's you're worth, because they're going to stop asking you after a while, right? If you say no 3 times. But I knew that I had got a great skill and capability. I knew they'd be back to ask me again. So you have to. And that's where you're.
Well, you also kept yourself top of mind, right? I would imagine. The other thing though is, and you alluded to this, but I would like you to address it. Some assignments can set you up for success or set you up for failure. And if we're honest, especially corporate entrepreneurs, different. We have seen people set up for failure, so they leave or they quit. Because for whatever reason, we don't want to fire them. Well, we know what the reason is, but we can talk unemployment all day long. Lawsuits, we can talk that all day long. But what do you do? Like, how did you navigate what you felt was setting you up for failure? Because I feel like anyone that's achieved great success has been set up for failure along the way.
Yeah, to me, the key question that everybody has to ask, what must be true in order for me to win? What must be true? So I'm given this opportunity to create a new gross profitability system that's global. Okay, that's the challenge. Well, God bless me. I don't know what I did. What did I do to deserve this crap? But okay, I got it. And then you say, what must be true? What must be true is I have to have access to information. I have to have a collaboration between the countries. I have to have a team on my people on my team that understand analytics and business intelligence and the technologies that go along with that. I need to be able to have time. I need $3 million of budget. Whatever it takes, you have to say what must be true in order for me to win. And if you don't know all the answers, maybe there's 30 things that you need and you only know 10 of them. Find the people that know the other 20, because again, by yourself, you know a little, but together with other experts, you know everything. And so, but the key question is what must be true? What are the assumptions that we have to make that are, that could go our way? So it's basically a SWOT analysis sort of a thing. What are the strengths that we have going into this project? Well, strengths are, I have enough people. What are the weaknesses? I don't have enough time. Whatever. Then what are the opportunities and what are the threats? And I think if you understand and ask the questions that help you with the information needed to be able to execute, because once you get started on that project, it's all on you. But before you get started on that project, it's all on them. It's all on the people who are asking you. So have them give you everything that you need, in order to win.
And really, you're saying it in a very eloquent way, but it is going back to curiosity. I'm wondering what I need, and will I have access to it?
That's right.
And will I have the talent? Okay. Right. So go back to the sponsorship that you mentioned.
Oh, sure.
Talk about where people were, because nobody gets anywhere alone, right? We are a team. And although, you have to, I did an interview with Stephen White. I don't know if you Stephen White is. He was one of the presidents of Comcast, probably first Black man that was a president of Comcast. Anyway, is he Chicago? Don't remember. Brilliant man, adored him. And he actually talked about you're responsible for yourself. Forget the individual. And he was one of the first that didn't just talk team. And I'm taking it out of context, but it was absolutely brilliant. And nobody else is responsible for you, right? However, having said that, no one gets anywhere alone. So talk about the role sponsorship has played in your life. And then, because I can already know this about you, how you've paid that forward.
Right. And I truly believe in that. And so the paying it forward is what I'm going to talk about when I talk about push and pull. Sponsorship is, there's one man that really sponsored me early on. And then I had another guy who sponsored me later on in my career. And the one that warms my heart, his name is Tony Wakin. He was the branch manager at IBM and he died recently. So he was an amazing man, white man. Everybody was afraid of him, everybody. But he took some of us under his wing. And it was because of him. I was a systems engineer at the time. And at IBM, you go from to engineer to instructor to manager to area manager.
Pretty bureaucratic. Yeah.
Pretty bureaucratic and regimented, and they kind of tell you how you're going to go. And so he said, Daphne, I see how you love customers. I see the mistakes that you've made. And you when you mess up, you fess up. I see how you are curious. I see how you want to do all these things. He said, I'm going to sponsor you, and you're going to be in Dallas, Texas at the education center where you're going to teach people how to do what you're currently doing now. So that was a promotion. But before he sent me away, it was like my father sending his daughter away to college. He gave me just so many nuggets of wisdom to say, remember, he's the one that told me, know how many no's you're worth. He was the one that told me to watch the game board because it is a game and know who's making what plays.
And it's shifting all the time.
Yeah, it's always, and you have to understand the goal may change, the players will change, the strategies change. So he was just amazing. And so he really was the one that allowed me to jump off of where I was onto a trajectory of being a manager. And very important. When I think about paying it back, I have in my home in New York a picture of Harriet Tubman. And in that picture of Harriet Tubman, she has a lantern in her hand, and she has a shotgun under her arm, and she's going that way. So, which I assume is north in the picture. And then,
I would assume.
Right. And so she's pushing forward. I call it the push and pull technique. She's pushing forward through the forest, through dangerous. She's curious. She has courage, and she's moving forward, always advancing herself. But at the same time, her other hand is this way. And she's pulling slaves along with her. And in this picture is her and 3 slaves.
Yes, I've seen that picture. Right. Yeah, I've seen that
and
picture.
That is paying it forward. She knew how to be free, but she said, you know what? Until my brothers are free, I'm not free. So she said, I'm going to be free, but I'm also going to bring my people along with me. That is what I do. I believe in learning all you can, earning all you can, and returning all you can. I'm at that phase now where I'm not done earning, I'm not done learning, but I'm pretty much skewed to the right where I am returning all I can. My book is my way of being able to share with other women. How do you stop suffering in silence? How do you stop asking for permission to prosper? How do you not wait for your boss to pull you up, but you pull yourself up? And how do you play the game? Because it is a game. How do you do all these things? Because if a poor Black Jamaican immigrant girl from Phoenix, Illinois can do it, then so can you. So my paying it forward is in my book. It's in my coaching. So
the title of your book is When They Say You Won't, which I love because I love, there you go. It is an awesome, awesome book. There's so many nuggets, some of which you've shared now. But, I always tell people, I love when people tell me I can't do something.
Oh, my God.
When I was younger, I would yell, blah, blah, blah. As I got a little bit older, I'd be like, I'll show you. And now I just do it. Right. And I don't say anything. And you said earlier, impossible. I don't know where I read this once, but you take the word impossible. It's I am possible. I'm possible,
right.
I am possible. But go ahead, talk more about your book, because you are a role model. I don't think you're a role model for women. I don't think you're a role model for Black women. I think you're a role model for everyone. Absolutely everyone. So share your wisdom with all the listeners, women or not, men or not, whatever.
It's really about, do you want to win?
I don't like being so tribal sometimes, we all want to win. Don't we all want to win?
You want to win? Now,
and if you don't want to win, I don't want you on my team.
Right. Go ahead. And at the same time, you're already winners. So first of all, everyone is a winner. If you came out of your mother's body as a baby alive, you are a winner. Okay. If you graduated from school, you won. If you won a championship in sports, you're a winner. If you got your first job, you're a winner. So the point is, this book is not for losers. This book is for winners, which is for everybody. There are times, however, when odds are stacked against you, when you don't believe you're a winner yourself, and you want to know, okay, I believe I'm a winner, but I don't know how to win. I want to get promoted. I want to learn how to swim. I want to be a better speaker. I want to start my own business, but I don't know how. This book is meant to be
a playbook. It's the playbook. It's the playbook.
It's exactly right. It's the playbook of how to win when you or others say you won't. The reason I wrote this book is when I tell the story about how not only me, but other women and young girls and people of color are planted what I call, Patty Ann, seeds of misdirection. Girls don't do math. Young girls don't play basketball. A Black person can't be a CEO of a hedge fund. All the things that we are told that we cannot be and we cannot do. That sticks with us because we're impressionable as the weaker sex, the other sex, or the younger side of us. And those little seeds, they grow up with us and they become tall trees of imposter syndrome. And so when you have imposter syndrome, you are always questioning, maybe I shouldn't do that because they told me I couldn't when I was 5 years old. So you're stuck, you're paralyzed, and you're in this trance.
So let me just parenthetically say, so yes, those seeds are implanted. I would say media plays a big role, culture plays a big role, but then it's your responsibility to not water that. Don't give it life.
That's true.
Right?
That's right. If you don't know better, you give it life. You avoid that math class. You avoid majoring in something that you have a proclivity for. And my book talks about your purpose. Your purpose is where you have passion and capability. Where that intersects, that's your purpose. So there are young girls out there who love math, but they've been told that they shouldn't. So they water it, not on purpose. They avoid it because it's not cool to have math. And now when you get to be our age or younger or whatever, then you realize, you know what? I do love math. I can swim. I can do these things. And here's how I'm going to do it. And so it's the goal is to take matters in your own hands and think differently and not believe that you can't. And I call it suspending disbelief. You have to take that disbelief. We take disbelief and we just hold it, and just cradle it. You got to take it and throw it so high so it's not easy to get to. Take that disbelief where you can't access it every time you're scared or every time you have a goal that you have. And so the book really focuses on how do you go after thinking about what you want? How do you design a plan to get it? How do you work that plan and take feedback from the marketplace? And then how do you never quit? And that's one of the reasons I think 2 reasons people fail. 2 reasons, at least 2. 3. One is your mindset, but outside the mindset, it's you have too many goals and you don't
talk more about that. Talk more about having too many goals. What do you mean?
So, people have these, 2023 resolutions and, they're going to lose weight. They're going to do this and they're going to do that.
Lose weight, learn Mandarin, right? Yeah.
That's exactly right. Let's start my own business. I'm going to learn how to, and the question is, which of those things are going to allow you to connect with your purpose, with your vision for yourself? And those things that are most closely associated with that, those are what I call the bows, your bodacious objectives. So let's say you got 12 objectives and you want to do them all. You can't. You pick 2 that are the closest to helping you achieve your purpose or your vision for your life. Those are bodacious objectives. Those are the bows. Those that are next level down, those are your moderate objectives. And those are what I call the mo's. And then the non-essential objectives are the lowest ones. Those are what I call the no's. They're non-essential. No means no. And so either delegate it or put it on the list for next year. Maybe it'll rise up to being more important, but it probably won't. And so that's what I mean by people doing too many things, having too many objectives, and then they quit. And studies have shown, books have been written that say just before it was about to turn dawn, when it was night, you quit. Right before
darkest before the dawn. The darkest before the dawn. Yeah.
Yeah. You're about to get a breakthrough and then you quit. And so part of my methodology is that when you are going through your process, you look at the situation and you say, this feedback I'm getting from the market is just data. How do I use that data, put it back in my plan and go back to the drawing board, but go through it again. Don't quit. You find a way to pivot, persevere, pivot or persevere. But at the end of the day, if that goal was worth having, it's still worth having. That objective was worth achieving, it's still worth achieving. The question is, you can't go left, you find a way to go right. You can't go
So
up.
let me ask you a question, because I do think, grit is important, perseverance is important. Other than self-confidence and the mindset, what else have you seen in your career where people just can't get through those difficult moments? Because we know life throws us a curveball when we least expect it. We'll go back to the sports analogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do when you've seen people quit on themselves when life throws them a curveball? Because the only thing that's guaranteed is that life won't go according to plan.
That's right.
What's the expression? If you want God to laugh, let him know you have a plan.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And so, well, it is conviction. It is belief, because, Sun Tzu says a winning warrior wins first and then goes to battle.
Correct.
A losing warrior goes to battle and hope he wins or hope she wins. Right. So it is your mind. It is the belief and that says, I had breast cancer when I was writing this book. And if I had said to myself, which was just as easy as not, you know what, I can't. The cancer, it means that I got to stop. Mm-hmm. And if I had, but I also said, well, cancer means that I have the ability to keep going. I just have to deal with the cancer over here, but my book is over here. And so it is almost 100% how you feel. The way you define the problem is the problem. I don't have to go to work today. I get to go to work today.
Right. So what you're describing is you're reframing, right? Because every challenge is an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. So, if it's right, go ahead.
Yeah. So it starts with the mind, though. I'm not saying that the mind is the only thing, because then based on the other question that you asked me about, well, you have this daunting task. Well, then my question is, what must be true in order for you to make it? But you first have to say, I want to make it. I can make it. I can go. My mind is such that it's a decision away. I decide to win. Okay. You got that straight, everybody? I'm going to win. I'm going to win. Okay. Now the question is, what must I do to win? What is it going to take for me to win? I got to have the right resources, stakeholders, coaches, sponsors, role models, accountability buddies, you name it, money, time, effort. What is it going to take? And so when you have that, then that's what you need, the mindset and your resources. And then when you fall down, you get back up, and it's being resilient, understanding, I believe some of the best leaders can see around the corner. They spot patterns. When you're behind your schedule 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row, you're probably going to go red. Your project is going to go behind. You don't wait until it's been yellow 4 or 5 weeks and you do something about it. You start to say, you know what, this project looks like it's going to go behind schedule or over budget. And so it's being ability to look around the corner, see patterns before they may be visible to the common eye, or being able to hear noise about that project before it's audible. And so that's what that curiosity that you spoke about, Patty Ann, is important. I'm curious, how's the project doing? Why is this yellow for 3 weeks in a row? It's not going to all of a sudden go green just because, you're a nice person. It's going to go green because of your intervention. So that's what I think people have to do. Have the mindset, have the right stakeholders, and be curious enough to track and see what's going on and what's going wrong.
Okay, so that is awesome. And everyone listening is like, wow, what a success story, right? And even though you've just shared how things will go wrong, you have to persevere, you have the book, when they say you won't. I know people are listening thinking, oh, it must have come easy to her. She couldn't have really been thrown a curveball, even though you just said you had cancer while you were writing the book. So can you share with us a time in your career when your career threw you a curveball and you did strike out, and how you came back from that?
Sure. When I told you that I graduated from college early, I skipped 3 years in school. I skipped first grade and I skipped 2 years of college. I joined IBM.
I've been moved, we used to call that.
I've been moved. And then at one point it was itty bitty monopoly because it was one of the biggest companies in the world at the time. So anyway, so I was at IBM, my dream job, even though people sometimes say they don't dream of labor, but it was my dream job. And I was with them for 10 10, 12 years. Tony Waken, the branch manager who sent me to Dallas to be an instructor, that company. I ended up moving from Dallas to DC. Then my husband wanted me to move from DC to Atlanta. He said, Daphne, there's a lot of Black people in Atlanta. I'll be very successful there. But when I moved to Atlanta, I didn't have anybody there. IBM didn't send me there. Tony sent me to Dallas, right. And then Dallas sent me to DC. I went to Atlanta on my own. My mistake. And I knew Tony's coaching would have told me stay in DC. But anyway, I didn't have anybody. And part of, they say if you want to go fast, you go, alone. If you want to go far, you go together. I didn't know anybody to go together with. I didn't have a resource base. I didn't have a stakeholder base. I didn't have any mentors, sponsors, friends, coaches, nobody there. So when IBM was going through their tough financial downturn, I was an easy one to get rid of. So they laid me off. I was downsized by my dream company. I was going through a divorce at the same time.
Add insult to injury.
And when you're going through a divorce with a child, the mother wants custody, but this mother didn't have a job anymore. And we had a big house with a pool, and he had moved out. And so I had this house, had to sell. So it was just one thing after another. And so Patty Ann, I struck out. I was afraid that I was going to be called back to the secretarial farm, because remember, they told me that all I could be was a secretary. And I was afraid the secretarial police was going to come after me and put me back in secretarial prison. And so between crying, depression, my sister came and moved in with me for a minute just to keep things together, help me keep things together. But then I realized, but my 8-year-old son is right here. He needs his mother to be able to move. So, the motivation, I don't know if it was you or somebody else that told me that you get motivated by when somebody tells you can't do something. I had to get motivated.
That was me.
Right, it was you, right? And I had to get motivated because this little boy here was looking up at me and saying, Mommy, it's going to be okay. I'm like, my God, he's comforting me, right? And I said, you know what? Damn right, it's going to be okay. Let me get out of bed. Let me dry my eyes. Let me stop thinking that I'm a loser, that I'm not a winner, and let me put a plan together and let me get moving. Again, it was a decision to get out of bed, and I call getting out of bed a metaphor for get moving.
Get it together. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I bet you everybody listening is shocked. What you did was you violated everything that you teach everybody today in your book, right? When they say you won't. You didn't have your support system, you didn't have your resources, you had no team, and you can't win alone. So no matter how talented you are, it needs to be noticed. And I think that's right. So important. And women have a hard time with that. So I am so grateful for your time. I just have a couple more questions and then I'll respect your time. What is other than your own, what is the last book that you've reread and why?
Other than my own. Last book I reread, Eric Ries. I read it at least 2 or 3 times. So Eric Ries, The Lean Startup.
Okay. And why? Because you're starting your company?
Because I have a lean startup and I want to understand how to, hypothesizing and pivot versus perseverance, where that came from. And I used some of his book for my own personal research to put into my book as well. So that was why I had a practical application for my own company. And I wanted to, and I believe strongly that whether you're an incumbent or whether you're a brand new startup, you should think like a lean startup. And allows you to win.
Great. That's great. And then my last question is, what's the one song that you can't live without?
What
doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah. Neither one of us should give up our day jobs.
Huh?
Neither one of us should give up our day jobs.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. That's a great song.
Started, I'm not the boss.
I know. Yep. Whatever kills you whatever doesn't kill you make you stronger. We'll call it that.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's consistent with everything you shared. So, unabashedly promote yourself, your book. How can people get your book? How can people learn more about you?
Okay.
Go, girl.
Everybody, this book is the book to have. Patty Ann said it's the playbook, and wow, is it the playbook. Everything you wanted to know about how to win, how not to lose, and I don't believe in losing, I believe in it's a lesson. And even when you don't get what you want, you're still winning because you made that step forward. Reach out to me. I'm at Daphne at DaphneEJones.com, DAPHNE at DaphneEJones.com. Send me a note, get on my newsletter, get in my email account. If you want to get a book, a copy of the book, a free intro of the book, go to DaphneEJones.com/free intro or /book. And then you can read about the book and understand, where I come from. I wish that the IBM story was the only downside thing I've had. I've had a lot of challenges. And so I am not a person born with a silver spoon or a gold spoon in her mouth. I was not a person who had it easy. In fact, I've had microaggressions and I have had negative pressure downward for me to stay down. I was the one that got away. You can too.
That is great. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I truly